Hey guys, thanks for subscribing and liking the Facebook page. I really appreciate that. So today, while I was at the store, I was going to get groceries and I started scanning. I went to the self-checking machine, I'm starting to scan my groceries and everything, and I must have hit a button because suddenly the thing switched to Spanish and it's like elija el tamaño de jalapeño que quiere. And I was like, what's going on? But I didn't know how to switch it back. So I'm just like sitting there and I'm just like clicking, because it's whatever. And I just like go through it and people are like looking at me because, okay, this is Smith's Market and it's not the most diverse place where I live right now. And so the Spanish like voice is going loud and I'm just like scanning my stuff away and whatever. And I was like, I'm pretty cool. But no, honestly, I just thought it was funny. And today I'm going to share a little bit about reading practice. Tuesdays are my reading day. So this is one aspect I like to focus on during those days. Now, in your language study class, if you've taken a formal language study class, a lot of them, at least in the US, push literature and reading practice to kind of an advanced level. So at least for my Spanish studies, there were like 4 classes of like regular Spanish and then Spanish literature at the end. And we spent more time focusing on grammatic principles and on speaking, which is great. Don't get me wrong. But one of the things I think is really important is to read diverse materials in the language, not only to increase your vocabulary, but also to get a better sense of the flow of the language from a well-edited source. Because as we all know, in speaking, sometimes we learn things differently and we learn things quote-unquote wrong, even though it's not wrong. If people speaking the language are using it in the masses, it's not wrong. It's just a different way of speaking it. But sometimes we get that and we try to communicate that through writing, and native speakers are either offended or they just let us know, hey, you know what, that's more of an informal speech. It's better if you use it this way. So writing focuses mostly on that formal aspect of it, and I think that is really important for us to get that. So that's why you should do reading study and shouldn't just leave that off. All of you, everybody who's on those apps, everybody who loves Duolingo and all that, which is great, go ahead and do that. But just know you're not getting that extensive reading practice that you can get other places. And here's one quick way to do it. I'm learning 9 different languages right now because I want to have the goal of speaking 10. But maybe you want to learn 1, maybe you want to learn 2. It's not going to be a huge time commitment for you. So what I would do if I were you is allocate 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes a day, which is really not that much when you think about it. Probably you've already spent 10 to 15 minutes on Facebook when you're watching this, or 10 to 15 minutes searching through YouTube videos. So instead, allocate a little bit of that time toward your reading study. Now, it's good to choose a variety of materials that suit your reading level and also that push you. So if I'm already, considering myself fluent in Spanish, going back and reading children's books in Spanish isn't going to be as beneficial to me as pushing myself to read something more. So that's important to notice your own level first and kind of figure out what that means for you before you jump into the actual study. So for most of those languages, for me, I'm really beginner. And for me, I found that it's good to begin with something that's less literary and more to the point. And I found that news is the best way to get that. So what I've done, and I'll leave you a link, I'll leave you a set of links in the YouTube description and on the Facebook page so that you can go through if you're learning any of the languages that I'm learning and click on those links and find those news sources and read the news, read the newspaper in the target language. And you guys can go ahead and add in the comment section links to other news sources. Now, I didn't vet these news sources. I don't know if they're fake news. I don't know if they are reputable news sources. That's not what I'm concerned about at this point. I'm not really trying to find out, is Macron good or bad? I'm just trying to find out how to freaking speak French. So that I'm reading that. And the most important thing in all of that is that you read aloud. And the reason you read aloud is because it not only helps you in your reading practice and understanding the fluency, it also helps you to be able to speak. It also helps you get that sort of vibe of the language. So that's really important. Now, besides that, I always make sure that I go through and words that I don't know that stand out to me, especially words that are repeated often, I look those up in Google Translate, and then I'll go ahead and save them. You have a little star button on Google Translate, and what that does is, if you don't know, it saves everything that you've searched, or it saves all of those words that you star to a word bank, a database that you can use to go and create your flashcards later on in the week and study, which has been such a huge benefit for me. So I'll go through, and sometimes you may find that if you're very beginning in a language, it's just looking at the word, copy paste, search it, save it, and you're doing that too much that you don't get the gist of it and you don't actually get the critical thinking in the language that's important. So I would do that for a couple of words, 10 words or so. Get your word bank going. And then for the rest of that time, for the rest of those minutes, go ahead and just read and don't necessarily worry about words you don't understand. Try to gain the fluency of it. Try to get the gist of what's going on, because that's what we do in our L1, in our native language first. We read as children without understanding every single word, but we pick up on context clues, and through that we actually gain a better definition of the word than you would if you just put it in Google Translate. It just gives you one word, but from the nuance from reading it, you actually understand that word better over and over again. So get that fluency going. Go ahead and keep reading that. If you're doing multiple languages, I would allocate 10 to 15 minutes per language once a week for reading. That's not that hard. Challenge yourself too. If the newspaper is too easy, if you're finding all of those words because you're already good with the economic, political type of words, choose a different subject that's going to give you a different set of vocabulary. If you are not used to talking about economics in the language, well, that might be a problem when you're speaking with certain people. So you might want to read the economics section of the newspaper. And why the newspaper is great is because it has allocated all those different sections for you to read and gain different vocab. It's perfect for language learning. If you're into literary work, ask me. I've got some recommendations. I'll probably do a separate video on different literature from different countries, and we can have a good discussion about that. And about ones that will target you, or that will work for your target language. And those are really important in the later stages of learning, especially more literary sort of things, because they increase your vocabulary to an extent that you wouldn't from reading the newspaper, because they're going to delve into vocabulary that is more deep of language, more rich, and those kind of things. And so even at that level, literature can be difficult and can be a real slog. And so we'll save that for a whole different topic. But good luck on your reading practice. Hope that goes well. Don't just stick with one manner of learning. Don't just stay with one app. Don't just stay with chatting with friends online. It needs to be a diversified learning in order for you to really holistically, attack the language from all sides and come out on top of it. Good luck in your language study, and we'll see you guys soon. Bye.